What is up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Across the Pitch with myself, Dave Miller, and Mike Barrera. Oops, sorry there. Obviously, coming off the back of last night, the Philadelphia Union played Club America in their second leg of their Champions League semi-finals. Obviously, Mike, you were there at the stadium, albeit very late, considering the traffic seemed to be never-ending and ridiculous from what obviously you were telling me and what happened on Twitter. But I think it just, to be fair, probably the traffic struggles probably summed up the entire evening from a Union perspective, really. They ended up losing 2-0, two very late goals, costing the game. Well, didn't really costing the game. The time was pretty much done with 10 minutes to go. They had to score twice against a team which didn't really look threatened. That didn't actually look threatened. I mean, like, it sounds harsh, but the Union part of the penalty, maybe the Jabirko header, they really threatened them. They didn't look too bothered. Club America, they came there to soak up pressure, let the Union control the ball and just not concede and limit their chances. They did exactly that, and they hit them on the counter-attack several times. Mike, obviously being in the stadium, being actually there, being able to speak to, or at least listen to Jim after the game, what was your sort of assessment of things?
So for one, I live in South Jersey, for people who don't know, and I left my house at like 7:20. Okay, the game starts at 9:00. So I get to Commodore Barry Bridge, which is right above the stadium, at 8:10 p.m. Okay, so I have 50 minutes to drive 500 yards to park my car and get into the stadium, and I'm in the front parking because I was with the media, so I'm right front and center. It took me an hour and a half just to park my car, and then once I parked my car, walked through the stadium, got settled. I didn't sit down until maybe like the 44th minute, maybe. But here's the cool thing. So for one, as you're driving to the stadium, the Club America fans were, just everywhere. They were selling stuff all over the streets. They were, honking their horns, all that stuff. So even when the game was started, they were still pretty present. But I had lost a stream at one point. I was streaming off my phone. I lost a stream because I guess, bad service, whatever. And I just lowered the windows down, and all you could hear was the stadium just like erupting and go, oh, and you hear the drums. It was so cool to just listen to the stadium from right outside in the parking lot. So I finally get myself in. I get in there, and I walk in, and I've never seen so many away supporters ever in a stadium. Or our stadium, rather. Yeah. Maybe Red Bulls, they usually come out in droves. DC United, the last time I was there, they came out in a pretty good crowd, but I've never seen anything like that before. And it was loud to the point where I could hear the Sons of Ben pretty well, and they did a great job making sure they were loud the entire time. Yeah. But you couldn't tell sometimes, like, whose stadium you were at. Was it Club America's or was it the Union? So it was an incredible atmosphere. Win or lose, it was an incredible atmosphere. And as many people know now, my parents are from Mexico. I'm in a Mexican-American heritage. So I've rooted for Memo Ochoa for years now. And his 2018 World Cup run was just something that we all loved. And he's an incredible goalkeeper. And to watch him live in front of me, and then not only playing well, but to make a miraculous save like he did at the penalty kick was just kind of a surreal experience overall. So it was a lot to take in, but I'm not disappointed by the outcome. Obviously it sucks, but you're in the semifinals in your first ever chance at the CONCACAF Champions League. Like it's still a positive night at the end of the day.
Yeah. As you said, obviously it's an interesting one, the fact that there were so many Club America fans, it was the Philadelphia Union fans. I'm pretty sure the first, unless I'm being stupid here, but I'm convinced that the first leg, there was no fans in the stadium, was there? Or there was very, very limited.
It was limited because the Union fans traveled, so it was limited capacity.
Limited. Right. So incredibly limited capacity. And then obviously tonight, full capacity at the Subaru Park, plenty of there'd have been plenty of Mexican people sort of within the Pennsylvania area, within New York, whether in DC, whether in the surrounding area, Philadelphia, whatever, who had obviously been willing to go to the game. And then again, you'd have definitely got a lot of people traveling. I think as we saw last night, you saw just how big the fan culture and supporter culture is of the American game of football,
Hmm.
as opposed to say the Mexican game, this more South American, more Central American game, and European game in general. Because I mean, that doesn't sound disrespectful, but that doesn't happen in an English stadium. No chance. The people are either not allowed entry or they're kicked out by stewards or fans try and beat them up, whatever. I mean, obviously, it was quite an interesting thing to see. Like so many Club America fans mixed in with the Union fans, and it's sort of working harmoniously. So that was quite an interesting thing to see. But obviously, looking at the game itself, uh, obviously watching it from home, and let's go, Chris. Hopefully, we can get a positive result on Sunday. Try and change the fortunes, but um, Newcastle,
Is that
very
there?
brave.
You go. Yeah, no. So it was the fan. So here's a couple things that I had a problem with, Dave. So let's kind of call people
Yeah,
out. Let's bring it to light here because I was a bit annoyed yesterday, and I was a bit annoyed today. So for one, okay, the fans want their team, the Union, to be the underdog, right? You're gonna go ahead, go out there, score 3 goals. You have to be underdog. But all I saw on Twitter the night before was people complaining that they would be outnumbered in the fans. Who cares? Be louder.
you've
Be
been out
be the
there.
bigger voice. Be if Club America fans are chanting, then chant louder. And that's why I was really happy to see the Sons of Ben as loud as they were because they did a good job to make sure the crowd was constantly, elevated with noise.
Yeah,
So that was the first thing that bothered me. The second thing that bothered me was many fans were embarrassed or even pissed off that they were outnumbered in their home stadium. And I try to tell people, Club America is the biggest soccer club on this side of of the globe in the Western
yeah,
Hemisphere. They are like the Yankees of Spanish and Mexican and Central American football. We are like the Camden River Sharks, a minor league team compared
no,
to
yeah,
the size. We've only been around for 11 years, Dave. 11 years.
exactly. Yeah,
And no, 8 of those years, we've basically been irrelevant in the city. Nobody gave a shit about us. Maybe the last 3 years, people have started to finally say, "Okay, let's go to the Union games, et cetera, et cetera." That's where the so you're asking fans who have been maybe around for 3 or 4 years to flood a stadium against a team whose culture goes back literally a century.
yeah,
It's not going to happen, and you have to think of it too. You said it perfectly. There are so many Hispanics in this area, South Jersey, Philly, Delaware, who have maybe never seen Club America ever in their entire lives.
yeah,
And now they have a chance to buy like a $50 ticket to go see a team that they support from afar. Of course, they're going to come out in huge numbers. It's we would do the same thing if we were in that situation.
no,
So
yeah.
I
Oh,
think people
exactly.
need to take a step back and look at the big picture.
No, like you said, like obviously it's a team. They're a team full of rich history, full of culture, and again, as you said, the Union in Philadelphia have been very relevant up until now, and and as you're saying, obviously, it's the game is continuously growing in Philadelphia. It's continuously
Yeah.
progressing. But I think I know it's fine. I mean, we might not see a big sort of peak of the game until, especially here, until maybe 2025. Well, no, not 2025, 2026, sorry.
26. Yep.
So I had 5 years in my head on in 5 years' time in 2026 when the World Cup comes here to here, Mexico and Canada, when games will be played at the link.
Yeah.
So people
Oh.
in Philadelphia will be able to go see games. Even if you're going to watch, I don't know, if you end up going to watch, I think it might be a 48 team tournament. So if you end up going to watch Hungary versus Tunisia or something like that, people will still go. The games will still sell out because,
Yeah.
people like yourself and other people will want to go and to watch the games. But then you'll also have people traveling over. So you have the casual fans as well, being able to experience that European culture that sort of the more raucous nations like Hungary bring. I'm sure that England might play a game at the link, and I
Yep.
doubt many people will be able to get tickets because there'll be England flags everywhere, there'll be England supporters everywhere. So hopefully that could happen. You guys could get a taste of the English culture, but do you know what I mean? I think that could be the year where the Union need to capitalise on the publicity of the game, not within Philadelphia, but within America as a whole. But again, I think I saw a good point as well. I mean, I know people complaining. Perhaps the union could potentially do better of promoting themselves to local
Yes,
areas,
I agree with that.
offer out tickets to local schools.
So
Offer out.
okay, let me
That's what
stop
I
you there.
mean.
I'm gonna answer a quick question for Chris. If he was, I was on Drunk on Broad, I was not, but I know a lot of our fellow all AAT Sports Network guys are. So Drunk on Broad is a good podcast, and they do work with us a bit as well. But Matt DeGeorge, who I know, you know from the press conferences and stuff,
Yeah,
he made a great point last night or on Twitter at some point today. He says it'd be a great way to expand the Union fan base if every single Club America fan who showed up last night got a free ticket to a Union game next year. Just
yeah,
because imagine if even half of those people came to the stadium to just watch soccer. Because as you know from being an international person, from my
yeah,
family being soccer outside of the states, soccer is a religion. It is something that you can
yeah,
go to. You can just go to a field down the street and watch a bunch of kids play, and it's fine. It's part of your culture.
yeah,
And the people who live here who don't have that culture are now given a chance to go to a stadium for free. They're going to
yeah,
go, and maybe they get
yeah,
hooked and they go back and back. So it's you have to start from somewhere. And a lot of people were complaining that this game wasn't advertised enough. I agree with them. I didn't see anything about this game outside of my
yeah.
usual
I
Twitter
think
stuff.
the issue
Yeah,
is as well. I think the Union were coming into this game 1-0 down, draw
yeah,
level or winning. I think he may have seen more, not just as much promotion. Be like, "Well, come see the Union," potentially put their place into the
yeah,
Champions League final. I think when you're 2 goals down, the expectations are very. The expectations of you actually being able to get there and get over that line is extremely high, especially against a team like Club America, who after that first leg they are probably a level above the Union. No
Oh,
disrespect to the Union.
no, you're absolutely right. They were the better team. I mean, they're just
Yeah,
simple as that. Yeah. No, and you have to think about too the scheduling of it. If you think of a playoff game for baseball or a football game or anything like that, it's on a weekend. It's on a 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at the latest. This is a 9 o'clock match on a Wednesday
yeah,
when kids are just starting school. Like my daughter just started school last week. Like it's kids are in school. People are working the next morning. That's a late. I didn't get back home till 1:30 last night, and I left
that's
obviously later. I left later because I was on the press conference. But still, I know people were stuck in traffic when I was leaving the stadium at midnight.
yeah,
So I mean, that's a lot to ask for people, especially when the team didn't perform well enough the first time around
no,
against. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's tough. I would love to see this branched out more, but the team has to continue to win for that to
yeah,
happen. You can advertise them all you want, but if you're not winning, who gives a shit? Because
no, exactly, yeah,
The Flyers are advertised more than the Union, but they fucking suck. I'm just saying, sorry, Flyers fans, if you're watching, they suck. So you can advertise them all you want. The stadium's not going to sell out because they're not putting a good product out there.
no, yeah, no, exactly, yeah, no, I agree. Obviously, a good product leads to an increase in its fans, and we've seen it this year as well. We've seen a lot of people, especially when Union were in that sort of green patch around that break that they had in June, and just a bit afterwards, and they had a good little patch. You saw people going into more games. You saw a lot more people on Twitter saying, "I'm going to my first Union game tonight. I'm really
Yeah,
excited." You
of
saw
course.
even Tyrone on 97.5 promoting the team and bigging the team up.
That's your boy right there. You love Tyrone Johnson, so
Hey, listen, I got blocked for disagreeing with the point he made about Miles Sanders after the Steelers game last season. I don't even know
God,
why.
God forbid, right?
But like, no, I mean, like, please, Tyrone, and block me, please. But no, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I don't really mind. I don't really mind. But no, like, I think again the union could really promote this better. And you see it a
Yep.
lot in the UK. Like in the UK, teams will go to schools and they'll give away free tickets to kids to go watch the games.
Yeah.
And then instantly there, you get a lot of kids going, you get a lot of kids hooked. You bring parents to the game as well, and they potentially have to buy tickets, and you get more revenue. You get more revenue, and you get more potential long term supporters in the long run.
Yep.
With these kids who perhaps don't really know what sports they like yet, if they get the chance to go to these games, experience this atmosphere where you're more likely to go week in and week out, there's more games to go to, and it's easier to access as opposed to fighting and paying $500 to go watch a game at the link when you're
It's
literally
true.
buying the last available tickets. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? So, like, this is a very good potential sort of avenue for the union to go down. Venture out to venture out to places like Temple,
Yeah.
Villanova, give tickets to the students there, offer them like $5 a ticket, and do you know what I mean? If you're struggling for a crowd this Sunday, do that. Just create something that will get the stadium packed. It will get people more interested. Because you might end up getting out of town people at these colleges and universities who say, "Hey, I watched my first game, watched the Philadelphia, and it was great. I might go
Hmm.
back more. Might go once or twice a year after I graduate because I still got this affiliation with them." I think there's so many good ways that the union could continue to branch out, even if it's not, just through the Sons of Ben. They could do it through themselves. I don't know if it sounds harsh, but I think the union rely a lot on their supporters clubs to
Yes, I agree with that.
push the things across when you can't pin it all on the Sons of Ben, you can't pin it on all these other supporters clubs. When you could easily, I mean, obviously they've done a great job to grow the way they have over the last decade. You're getting tens of thousands, you're getting 10+ thousand supporters a season. But
Oh,
there's so many,
you're selling out the stadium every week,
yeah,
well, at least close to it. Yeah.
you're getting, you've got, there's other avenues out there that haven't gone through that. They could perhaps reach out to more supporters. I think obviously going to looking at schools, looking at universities, looking at colleges, going to high schools and things like that. There's so many revenue avenues and potential areas of revenue that they could increase their supportership
And
down the
if
line.
and if they are doing that, it's not known enough because, like, I mean, I see them doing youth work with swag, and I see them doing stuff in the community. That's awesome. Keep
Yeah,
doing that. That's
yeah.
great.
Also, yeah,
But if there is, if they do reach out to things like you're mentioning, I never hear about it. Or
no,
I'm not in that circle to know about it. So it'd be great to, because you're right. I feel like a lot of times I see people on Twitter or Facebook, they're the ones who are advertising the union. It's not the union doing it. It's people saying, "Hey, come
yeah,
to the game." And right now is the time to do it. Like the Eagles are obviously, I mean,
back,
above
yeah,
for one, they're back. Two, it doesn't matter if the Eagles suck; they will always be the hottest ticket in town, no matter what.
no,
So
yeah,
they're not going to beat the Eagles, but the Sixers are going through their lumps. The Flyers, as I said recently, are terrible, and the Phillies are a 500 baseball team.
yeah,
You are honestly the second most relevant team in your respective franchise compared to the other
yeah,
teams. I mean, because the Sixers, I'm not going to count because they can't make out the second round. I'm not going to get into it right now, but don't get me started, Dave. But
yeah,
this is your chance. This is your window, and people are, you know, are frustrated at times. People say, "Oh, well, this team cannot ever accomplish anything. They can't win anything." I kind of have to take a step back and disagree with that. Okay, you have been around for 11 years, right? About 10, 11 years. In that decade or so time, you have gone to 3 Open Cup finals. You've lost them all. I get it. You've been to multiple playoffs. You've won one game, thankfully. You've finally got that monkey off your back.
yeah,
You have a supporter shield. You were in the semifinals for the MLS's back tournament, and now you're in the semifinals for the CONCACAF Champions League. You have
yeah,
Brendan Aronson and McKenzie overseas doing things. You just sent out DeVries. In such a short period of time, you've accomplished a lot, and you've accomplished more than other teams have even done in 20 years, 15 years. So you can't be completely negative after all this. And, you have to hope that continues to help push the brand and basically sell itself if the team isn't going to try to sell it more.
yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, I think obviously, again, we might not be hearing, might not be seeing what they do, but like just scrolling through sort of the website, the Twitter account, there isn't really much promotion for like tickets for the game this weekend. Not this weekend. It's not really. They've obviously. It's great that they've obviously promoted the Kick Childhood Cancer sort of
Yep.
initiative, but there's no pushing for tickets to the game this weekend. They're promoting the Carly Lloyd game in 2 weeks'
I've been
time. Well, two and a
I've been
half
hearing
weeks'
the Carl
time.
Lloyd game like crazy. Yeah.
No, but the last month. That's a
Yeah.
month away. You've got games leading up to that, and you're not promoting tickets for it.
Yeah. And that's a legitimate problem, and it's not even just us talking about it. I've seen it multiple times online within the last 2 days. People were frustrated with how this particular match is promoted,
Yeah,
and I get it. I mean, and I can say the same thing about the Open Cups. When I went to the Open Cup against Seattle and Kansas City, the stadium was not sold out. I mean, there was seats across. I mean, granted, it's the Open Cup, so it's not going to get the same type of attention as the MLS Cup. But
Yeah,
if that stadium was at full capacity, who knows what could have happened? You never know. Maybe that would have been the boost that was needed for them to win their first title or
yeah,
trophy. So I know it's hard. I mean, MLS is still the fifth sport in this country, unfortunately, in many areas.
yeah.
In Philly,
Might
we
be
are.
one of the only countries in the world where football is probably literally down the bottom of most popular sports. I think America is that special in its own right that it's one of the only countries in the world where football is literally a non factor in terms of sporting things. Because I think outside of America, it's the greatest sport. Well, it's obviously the most popular. It's the greatest sport in the world, and yeah, it's sort of like baffling from an outsider's view. Like if you look at it and the way the game is sort of viewed upon with a sort of like a smug.
Oh,
It's like, do you know what I mean like a
people
smugness, isn't
hate
it?
it. People just don't call it. They're like, oh, it's soccer. It's not really a sport. Like it's actually one of the hardest sports to play
Like yeah,
because of
like
how much you're running and whatever. I'm not going to get into it, but
it's frowned upon, it's looked down upon, and so it's not a big of a
yeah,
sport. And you see all these people, like all these sports hosts, and they do a lot of the most popular sportsmen in the world or the most famous teams in the world. And it's like Manchester United on there, Barcelona on there, Real Madrid on there, but the
yeah.
Dallas Cowboys and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on there. You're sort of like the Buccaneer and the Chiefs, and you're like, but no one know. Like you go around, like most of the people might have heard of Tom Brady, but like people in America think, oh, Patrick Mahomes is this global superstar. He's really
No,
not. If
he's
you go
not.
around the UK and go, who's Patrick Mahomes? Who's Patrick Mahomes? 60, it might be like a 35-65 split, like 35% people over here might know who he is.
Hmm.
But like, do you know what I mean? Like, he's not this big global superstar. Whereas as in America, he is. Do you know what I mean? I think that is sort of the difference for the game as well with football in America. It's sort of like people like Landon Donovan, Clint Dempsey, where in the small sort of stratosphere of footballing supporters in America is, oh, obviously Landon Donovan's a legend, Clint Dempsey's a legend, Carly Lloyd's a
Right,
legend, Megan Rapinoe's a legend. But it's a small
right.
community. Whereas, there's obviously Tom Brady's probably is the closest thing to a global superstar in America, apart from Michael Jordan, LeBron James,
LeBron
Kobe
James.
Bryant,
Right.
obviously, but in terms of American football terms, sort of like Tom Brady's the only guy. But being realistic, Clint Dempsey and Landon Donovan are probably just as well known globally as Tom Brady is. It's just that in America they haven't had the same. They don't have the same outreach in terms of like media outreach as Tom Brady does, because obviously the NFL is the biggest sport in America. But being
And,
realistic, globally, Clint Dempsey, most people, 90% of football fans in England know who Clint Dempsey is.
of course.
A lot of fans in Europe know who Clint Dempsey is, and it's that small. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of it's
Well,
finding that right balance.
I think the hardest part about it is, for one, if you want to play high level soccer in this country, it's expensive. I mean, I know plenty of people who've played like youth leagues, and it costs a fortune.
Yeah,
The travel stuff,
yeah.
I get it. Um,
I don't think that helps
many
with the perception of the game either. I think like
it doesn't. It doesn't.
people will have their kids going and paying $6,000 a year to have their kids play, and then they'll sort of look at it and go, "Oh, the uni are playing. I can't. I'm sure the tickets would be like $100+. I can't afford that." But being realistic, it's probably the cheapest in the city.
It is. They're only $35.
That's what I mean. So I mean, I think again, as you
Like
said, the
it's not
perception of
expensive to go. Is it minor?
yeah,
Yeah, it's a perception, and that's the thing too. The perception is, oh, soccer's boring. Nobody scores. It can end in a draw. Yada yada yada. But I can look at hockey the same way. Hockey ends up 1-0 sometimes. Sometimes it just goes into overtime. They do a shootout.
yeah,
Baseball takes 45 hours, and you might have a 2-run game, and everybody's
yeah,
standing there. It's boring. You can even argue football has become harder to watch now
yeah.
because penalties are excessive and there's no defense. Basketball is painful to watch sometimes because there's so many. So
Fouls.
you can compare every single sport to soccer, and you can find comparisons in the complaints. But I've taken multiple people to union games, and they have said that it is the most fun they've ever had in any event. Period.
Yeah,
And every time I have a yearly trip to go with a group of friends, I have more and more people who want to go because they said, I don't know what's going on. I understand the ball has to go in that thing. You don't want the team to score in that thing,
yeah,
but the atmosphere is great. And I guarantee you, if you put a soccer naysayer from America in the stadium last night, they would have walked out of there with merchandise and with the plan to come back to a game as soon as
Yeah,
possible. And I guarantee that's the truth because it
yeah.
was so much fun last night. Even as they lost, it was unbelievable to watch that.
No, absolutely. I think obviously it's quite an interesting point what you said. Like people love going to the actual games and watching it, but I don't think what also helps the American game and the MLS is the fact that the most promoted league in America is the Premier League, and that's such a higher standard in comparison to the MLS that people look down on the MLS because it's not the Premier League, and they go, oh well. They haven't got Ronaldo. They haven't got Romelu Lukaku. Bruno Fernandes doesn't play in the MLS. No one's as good as them. It's sort of like that doesn't help when the Premier League is the most well promoted league in America.
And you can argue that because it's kind of cool to talk down on the MLS because all the European, supporters and fans are like, oh well, MLS sucks. It's the retirement home for footballers and stuff like that. That has been the ongoing joke with this league for a while. Now you see Brendan Aronson going over. You see players like Pulisic finally kind of entering the higher
Yeah,
levels of football. MLS is hopefully becoming more of a reputable league. It's going to take some time, and I think the World Cup being in the United States would be huge to help that kind of. But that's 5 years from now, so
yeah.
it's we got a ways to go.
Exactly. I think up to 5 years, so hopefully the game can continue to grow before then.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, like, as it's been highlighted, like again, it's just a sport that needs to continue to grow, and I think obviously going back to the point of you saying, oh, like ending 0-0 and games ending in a draw. Oh, it's you just can't. I can't accept that. I mean, like if you actually watch the game, I mean, as you all know, if you watch the actual game, if you watch the actual sport, sometimes the games that end in draws are some of the best. Like, especially from like if
oh,
your
of
team
course,
manages to salvage a late point or something, like as you saw with the Union when they played away in Atlanta United, dead and buried at 2-0. Jaka Glasnes has just unleashed a thunderbolt from about 40 yards, and somehow the Union have come out with a point. They did the exact same in New York with 10 men. They
perfect,
somehow came out with a point. And people,
perfect. Go ahead.
sorry,
Yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm saying that's sometimes people can't. People go, oh, but they didn't win. You literally played 90 minutes to not win a game. It's like, yeah, but you played 90 minutes, and there's sometimes nothing better than getting a late point or getting an undeserved point that you didn't deserve to get.
Right. So there's two things there. For one, I don't know if you fully watched Union at this point, but when they played, oh my God, LAFC in Los Angeles, and it was a 3-3 draw. That was one of the best
Yeah,
games. That was one of the best games I've seen from the Union in a while because it was so back
yeah.
and forth. People loved it. I think that was the Glesnes, the first goal that he scored, like
Maybe, yeah.
off the Rocket. So that's one example. But one of the things I hate about hockey is that it doesn't end in a draw and it ends in a penalty shootout, and it's such a cheesy way to end the game. I can't stand it because the Flyers, for example, sucked at the shootouts for a while, and they probably still do. And it's like now you're not given the chance to get those 3 points because your team's not good enough in this particular you know spectrum or avenue, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I'd rather end in a draw and both teams get the point and that's it, rather than somebody else getting 3 points just because you have better skilled players on a one-on-one with a goalie. The
No,
same can
yeah.
be said for penalty kicks with soccer, as I would rather them keep playing than go to penalty kicks because sometimes penalty kicks are just not a good way to determine a winner. That's just my
Yeah.
opinion on it. I know some disagree. It's exciting. I get it. But I just don't like games ending that way. That's just my perspective.
I think yeah, it works for knockout games. I feel because but yeah, I think yeah. I mean, obviously, I think it's more of an entertainment factor, and obviously, penalties are more a knockout
Yes.
tie or knockout sort of feature. But yeah, I mean, obviously, we've been going for 30 minutes here. We haven't actually discussed the game last
Let's
night.
get to the game. I know we went on a rant there. I'm sorry, guys, but sometimes you talk soccer and you get caught up in it.
I exactly get caught up in it. I mean, yeah, obviously, it's an important issue. I mean, the game isn't as respected as it should be in America, and I think the perception of the game the perception of the game and not just in America but globally, it looks so down upon. Like,
Yeah,
I think I remember saying like Colin Cowherd's like most popular sportsman globally,
I
and
know.
Messi and Ronaldo didn't get on the list, although they are the two most popular sportsmen in the world, apart from maybe LeBron James, who again, but do you know what I mean that absolutely baffled me? It's like Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes right now. So like, Lionel Messi's they're literally the two greatest footballers in the world. They literally have their global outreach is enormous. But yeah, that's the one thing that frustrated me. So now that's sort of like a general perception of the sport in America. But obviously, moved on to the game last night again.
Yep.
That was incredibly frustrating. Um, just the watching the game from the first 15, 20 minutes, the Club America just played that game absolutely perfectly. From the fact that they literally they must have absolutely laughed themselves when they saw the Union lineup and you thought they're going to have to chase the game here. And you see Flack, Martinez, and Bedoya in a holding midfield three, and then Montero just in front. All they literally had to do was just literally put two players on Montero, close him out the game, and say, Ali Bedoya, Leon Flack, Jose Martinez, come do your worst to us. Come take control of the game and come create some chances. And how many chances did those three create?
Not much.
In 90 minutes.
And
in
that's
90 minutes.
So that's the thing. So let's talk about the lineup to start. I'm trying to pull out my phone right now so we can have it in front of us. I want to see the whole lineup, the substitutions as well. Let me pull that up real quick. So I was hoping that we would see a new formation. Well, for one, Sergio Santos got hurt 2 days ago, not yesterday, the day prior. So it was right before. They were 2 or 3 days ago. He got hurt. So right away, you don't see Sergio Santos in the lineup, and your heart kind of goes into your stomach. You're like, crap. How is this? He's obviously one of the most important offensive players.
Yeah.
I will say though that there were times that Burke and Casper looked good together. There's the one in particular that led to the penalty kick in the second half. They looked better in the second half, but regardless, we've seen it enough where those two really don't mesh well together up top.
Well, I mean, they can mesh well. It's when you've got no creativity in midfield, no players willing to work, get the ball up the midfield, and you just sort of see it just screamed volumes last night when I know I had a discussion with the guy on Twitter. So the whole point of the system is that you have your midfielders tuck in and you try and play narrow, and you have the fullbacks overlapping. But it doesn't work when your only source of outcome is your fullbacks and your entire mantra is. I mean, it would work better if your entire mantra is work the ball in the box, will keep the ball on the ground. But your entire mantra is you get the ball wide and you put crosses in the box and you play a narrow diamond. So you're essentially isolating yourself to two players that can really do any damage. And okay, Kai and Biza are brilliant, but you completely limit yourself. And you saw last night just how out of touch Bedoya was with the game. He was so far behind the pace. I don't know if you saw the one chance or one moment where Flark went on that really good run. And I said it on Twitter and I said it on my player ratings. Flark was probably my man of the match last night. It's just a shame it was the wrong game for him to play it.
Yeah.
It wasn't the game for him to be involved in because he needed to score and he isn't a creative player. But yeah, so Flack went that really good run, and I think if Montero was there or Quinn Sullivan was there, they get that ball, they read the pass, they get the ball, they get it under control before they do anything else, and they put the ball back in. Bedoya was a yard behind it. He really pulled touch, put him off balance, and put him in a weird position. Instead of regaining his composure or remaining composed, he panicked and scuffed the ball into the box. Went straight to a Club America player. They dealt with it like that. Had he taken the touch, Union had a couple of players in there. Drills it across, he takes the touch, regains his composure, smacks it across goal as hard as he can. You get a corner, you might have an own goal.
Right.
That just frustrates me. And again, the other one was when he got the ball in the right position, on the right-hand side, and he's out wide, by the way. So it's not like he's inside the area. He's literally out on the right wing position. And you're just thinking, take the ball, pull it on your right foot, either drive or whip across him. And instead he just stopped. So everyone was in the box waiting. He stops, turned backwards. Bear in mind, he's literally got 10 yards of open space around him where he can literally do whatever he wants. He just stopped there, turned around, and played it back to Biza. And I just sat there and I thought, what's the point? What's the point of you playing in that position? And the one Union player last night, who, apart from that Flark run, who showed a bit of balls and shows a bit of guts and takes risks, is your number 6. The one player you don't want to be doing that is your number 6.
People are so conflicted on Martinez, but you're right. He does at least take the risks that sometimes can lead to other things. Granted, I don't think he's the one who should be taking the risk, but at least someone's got the balls to do it.
Listen, he's doing what Bedoya and Flack should be doing. He is the guy that takes pot shots from long range. He does try. He tries and weaves his way to pass 2 or 3 players. He made a really good run last night. We beat 2 or 3 players, cut back on his left foot and put a cross in the box. Didn't come to anything, but I thought, fucking hell, at least one of the midfielders actually had the balls to get on the ball and try something, because it was just so isolated. And it's the fact that no one else goes wide. It's the fact that Jabirko and Corey Book are the ones that have to go out wide to get the ball to put a cross in, when really they should be the ones in the box where they're most effective. But they're not, and there's just so many flaws with this system. And I'm
Yeah.
going to campaign for it now. Jose Martinez should play right hand side of the diamond, because that is where he fits best.
We saw, okay, yes, because we saw what he did at Copa, and Jim has said I didn't think he could play that side, or he wanted to try him on the right side, whatever he said. But you have, although I don't like Martinez in a lot of ways with his carelessness, he tries to make too much happen. He can just be sloppy or overly careless at times. Fine, but when he is willing to push forward and try to make something happen on offense, it doesn't make sense for him to come out of your six. It makes sense for him to come out of Bedoya's spot,
Yeah,
which is like. And first of all, he's much quicker than Ali, so right
he's
there
much quicker.
you add speed to that side.
And being realistic, he's not sat in the middle of the pitch, right on the edge of your penalty area, taking the risks. He's going to be the right hand side,
Right.
15, 20 yards away. And if he does lose the ball, you've still got Bizo behind him that can cover his ass. And it's going to be a one on one or whatever. Whereas, as you said with Bedoy, I mean, you solve two problems with one. You move Martinez into a more advanced position. You can drop Fluck in front at the six, and you can play Quinn Sullivan, Montero, and Jack McGlynn, whoever you want at the other side, and then you can stick over behind the strikers. But like Club America again, they just played it so perfectly last night, where they sort of basically said to the Union, "We're going to mark your only creative midfielder out of the game, and we'll make your three defensive guys try and take initiative." And you just saw when
Yep.
they got in the final third, especially during the first 30, 40 minutes, things splattered out. And I think Club America knew that the good position they were in. And obviously the Union only really threatened from crosses. I don't know if you saw the two Bizo crosses that he put in.
Was it the first half? I missed most of the first half, so no. Yeah,
So
I missed
Bizo put in two incredible crosses into the box, which found the man. Glazner's had to do better with his header. He was literally at the back post, unmarked, gets it on target. He probably scores. And Shaberko did well to get over his man and head it in, had another cross on target, which again he did well enough. He did well to actually get the header away. But I mean, then that's what frustrated me so much. You're chasing two goals. You're going to be putting balls into the box, and then you take off your best crosser of the ball on the right hand side, and then you still stick with the player that was 2 yards behind the entire game and contributed nothing for 90 minutes in Bedoya, who got booked. He should have been sent off, by the way. That was his second yellow card. He was late, nowhere near the ball. That's the second yellow card.
No, so the lineup. I know we're talking about lineup, but I guess we can kind of go into it and see exactly what it was. So for people who don't remember or didn't watch the game, you have the usual four back. You have Flock, Martinez, Bedoya, Montero, Shabilko, Burke. Your bench was Gazdag, Paxton Aronson, Quinn Sullivan, Jack McGlynn, Powell, Bendick, Finley. No Davo. You had no Sergio Santos, and for some reason, Davo is not on the bench.
Did anyone ask Jim?
No, nobody asked him. Jim was pretty just reflective during his press conference. Nobody really asked him anything crazy.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like I like Paxton Aronson. I think he's a good player. He will become a good player. I would put Davo on the bench over Paxton last night because at least Davo has more experience. He's only like 22, but he's at least older. He's played against competition that's similar to what you see at Club America. You see he has more to provide. He's also a playmaker, which is what you needed last night. And then, not to mention, Jim Curtin is standing there. His players have been warming up for like 25 minutes, and he's not substituting anybody until the 70th minute. Now, one argument you could say is, well, this team was attacking. They were pushing into the box. They had their moments. They had the penalty kick. They had the 55th minute when Kai had sent that set piece into the box. They did have some moments.
Yeah.
But you're still down 2-0. Why not put a sub in there and like McGlynn and try to make something happen?
It's just baffling that there were no strikers on the bench when you need to score 2 goals. No. And it's the fact that at 70 minutes he made the wrong. He took off 2 attacking players and replaced them with 2 other players.
He took off Olivier for Daniel, and you took off Miro for Paxton. Those were the first two subs last night.
First two subs. The first two subs last night should have been Bedoya and Flack off. I know Flack
Yes.
played well. I mean, I know Flack played very well, but he wasn't going to create anything. He wasn't putting any crosses into the box, nor was Bedoya. Bedoya was a couple of yards behind the pace of the game. He was a bystander for a lot of it. But Flack wasn't putting any balls into the box. None of those players out wide were willing to get the ball, get wide, and try and put a cross into the box. They weren't doing it. They had to come off, and instead he took off your only player on the right hand side, or the only player who provided a threat out wide of putting good crosses into the box all night, and then he took off your other player, Montero, who also offered creativity. The subs were done too late. The game at
Yes.
that point was done. I mean, if obviously people could say I should have perhaps bought off Martinez, but again, I'd have more trust in Martinez going forward than Flack to create something to happen. Because if it gets to a point where you really are desperate, Martinez can push on. Martinez can try and even just put pressure on it. Just the
I'm,
subs were wrong. It was
I'm gonna make I'm gonna make a comparison, and I don't know if people are gonna like this or not, but I feel like this is fair. Okay, Ali Bedoya has been a great player for the Union for the last few years, right? He is a player that I think can still benefit this squad in more of a limited role. Okay,
Yeah.
but this does remind me a bit of Jason Peters, a player who can still play at a high level, but who is holding back his teammates because his performance is not on their level because of his age. And I feel like Mailata was waiting behind Peters, and now you see him in his place, and the team on the offensive line is better. I feel like Bedoya is that right now. He is a great Union player. He'll always be remembered as being the captain of Supporter Shield. But I think most people can agree his time as a starter or playing 90 minutes is coming to an end.
Yeah.
I would have preferred Flock to be at the 6, Martinez to be in Bedoya's spot, Jamiro at the 8, and then you can put Gazdag at the 10, or you can put whoever you want at the 10, whatever. But it just seems like this team is a year away from finally realizing that they have to start moving on. And they could have moved on last night and showed us a better lineup, but they chose not to. No. And it's frustrating. And how about Jack McGlynn? Why wasn't he on earlier? You saw how well he played out of the back against New England. I would have loved to see him on the left-hand side instead of Flock.
That was. I mean, they should have, as soon as Club America scored. You might as well have taken off Bedoya and Flock. Well, as soon as Club America scored, she weren't scoring 4 goals in 20 minutes. No. Or you might as well have taken off the strikers or rested players you thought were going to be important. I mean, that's what frustrated me the most. In the 89th minute, he brought on he made the substitutions he should have made after 60 or 70 minutes. The game last night was treated like an MLS match.
Yeah, it was.
As opposed to, it's 0-0, we'll carry on fighting. Not, okay, we're losing by 2 goals here. We need to step on that. We need to step on the gas. We need to keep creating chances, keep testing them. I mean...
All right, well, let me ask you something, Dave. So, you go into last night. What is the formation? What is the lineup that you would have preferred to see?
Can I also mention that Club America, by the way, who decided they were going to sit back, soak up pressure, created the exact same amount as the Union and probably had more dangerous chances last night.
Yeah.
Let me just put that to step forward, by the way. I thought Club America game planned brilliantly. Team last night, Blake in goal, Bizo, Glesnes, Elliott and Wagner. I'd have probably gone Martinez at the holding role just purely because you need someone in there. Gazdag at the 10, Montero, and I would have probably started Quinn Sutherland.
On the right? On
the right.
Over. Okay.
And then Shiberka and Burke front. Or you go 4-2-3-1 and you sit one of them in behind.
Okay, so I was thinking the 4-2-3-1. So you would have the 4 in the back. You would have Martinez and McGlynn, at least in my opinion. And then who would you put on the 3? Would you put Casper up top and then Daniel behind him?
Casper, Daniel, Sullivan.
Who's on your left? Davo?
Davo, I don't know why he didn't have another striker just in the squad.
Yeah.
I agree with striker. You just need another body up front. And also, I was a bit surprised. I mean, you don't... I mean, at that point, I'll admit a goal. You might as well lose it 2 or 3-0. Might as well go for it, losing 2 or 3-0 as opposed to, Oh Christ, what's happened during the Washington game? But
I don't know. I'm not watching
sorry,
the game.
the sun was
No, it's
down.
alright.
It doesn't look good. But yeah, but he into the wind, and because I really don't, hand on heart, I can't sit here tonight and having had a day to reflect on it. I can't sit here and tell you how heartedly, yes, the Union went into that game to totally threw the kitchen sink. They completely went for it and they threw everything at them because they didn't.
Right, and they didn't. You're
We
right. They
still
didn't.
saw the same impotence in attack that we've seen in the last few weeks. The cautiousness to get forward, the unwillingness to take a risk and attack the fullbacks, push up the pitch a bit more, put the crosses in. The guys on the edges of the diamond getting wide, attacking, putting crosses in the box, having shots. You saw none of that last night. And honestly, I wouldn't have cared if they might as well have taken off a centre half at 2-0 with 20 minutes to go and shove one of them at front or shove Glasnes or Elliot up front and said, fuck it, we'll just shove one of them at front. We'll go to a back three and go for it from there. But they didn't. They literally, it was just a cautious approach. It was like they were playing FC Cincinnati or they were playing Portland or whatever in the MLS. And they were like, we're happy with the 0-0 as it is right now. We'll carry on fighting until we can find the goal. It's just so frustrating.
Would you say that they played? Would you say that the formation was a scared formation because you're so worried about giving up the goal early that
Um,
you're not brave enough to try something off the just as soon as the whistle blows to start the game, you're trying to shove a goal down their throat. Do you think
it
they were
does,
just
yeah. It
what
does
was your
feel like
hmm
they were a bit cautious of things for sure. They didn't. Again, the fact she played with three holding defensive sort of style midfielders, and essentially just said to Club America, "Do you know what? You guys can stick your two holding midfielders on
Nero?
on Miro, because looking at the formation, you literally had the three at the bottom of the diamond, who are more holding players and not really going to push up high at the pitch, not going to get the
Yeah.
ball, go on a mazy run. You saw it last night. They got the ball in the Club America half, slowed things down and passed it and whatever, and tried to go side to side. It just didn't work. It wasn't. It just. I mean, obviously with the penalty as well, we could go on and go. Oh, it was a red card, but I knew they weren't scoring. I think what minute did I message you last night? I messaged you during the game, didn't I? And said they're not scoring tonight.
Yeah, you messaged. Yeah, you called it right away. You said, and okay, so that's a bigger problem. Okay, let's talk about two things. Well, last week's episode, we went to the last 3 months of Union soccer, and if you missed it, please check it out. It was a good episode. We covered every single game post Portland, which was May 30th. We literally went through every single game. Where has this team struggled? Where has this team improved? X, Y, and Z.
Yeah,
And we ended it by saying this team has not scored in 2 matches. They didn't score against DC United. That was an own goal. They didn't score against New England. And now they didn't score against Club America in a game where you had to score at least one.
yeah,
Well, obviously two, but you had to score. Point blank, you had to score. So now you've gone 3 matches without scoring. You've seen this team been unable to put an offensive flow together for any consecutive matches. They score 3 and then they go cold for the next 2 matches.
yeah,
But yeah, they continue to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over. And you continue to put bullshit crosses into the box over and over and over and over. You don't play through the
yeah,
middle. You don't have the right lineup out. At what point is Jim Curtin going to wake up and be like, this formation isn't working? And you're right. They should have gone in there with the kitchen sink and said, you know what? We're going to change it up, change the players up. We're going to try and do something because what we're
yeah.
doing right now isn't working. It's not working. And you saw it against Club America in their stadium. It didn't work. They looked awful. Just
I
plain and
think. I
simple.
mean, I think the game planning in Mexico was fine. I think the obvious plan was to not concede 2 or 3 goals and for the
Well,
game to be
yes.
salvageable. Which, honestly, I thought they played fine. I mean, probably first half, I think the occasion and the quality of opposition got to them a bit, but they grew into the game second half. They looked more composed in the second half of that Club America game in Mexico. And then again, I come back to it. The moment they lost that tie was when Jose Martinez gave away the penalty. That was the moment the tie was done
Yep.
because that left too much of an uphill battle. Because I will tell you what, last night, if it was 1-0 still, Club America would have been there, would have been quite defensive, but the game would have been open, would have been more open. They'd have been going in search of that away goal to kill the tie off there. Whereas
Mhm.
last night, the away goal wasn't as important because they knew the Union had to score 3 goals to actually get them knock them out.
and
So they
that
just sort of like, we can just sit back and we can just watch them try and score against us.
and Jim Curtin has said this team is not meant to play from behind. We have said this throughout the CONCACAF Champions League tournament. This is it's not a 90-minute match. It's a 180-minute match. So they went into the second half of this round down 2-0.
Yeah,
Which means all Club America had to do was park the bus and know that they were going to stop the Union because the Union cannot play from behind. We have literally seen this as we did last week. They have been playing from behind consistently over the last 3 months. So they were Club America had the upper hand right from the minute that whistle blew because they didn't have to worry about scoring anymore. They just had to make sure the Union couldn't do anything against them. And Memo Ochoa, who was brilliant last night, made sure that the Union didn't score.
I tell you what, I mean, they must have been absolutely laughing when they saw that team come out and went, they're actually playing 3 defensive midfielders and not really going for it. I saw the team and I think, well, I put a tweet out very early into the game last night. I know that Santos is out injured, but for a team that's chasing 2, 3, or 4 goals, having 3 defensive-minded midfielders is a strange choice. But Doyer's lack of composure and pace to reach that pass that Flack put forwards and to end up scuffing the ball somewhat highlighted it. And I think what I said later on, I think I said another tweet. I don't like bashing Jim and saying he's made awful decisions, but last night he made it so easy for himself to be caught in the crossfire. So he just got it so wrong. I think his lack of big game experience showed.
Well, but people have said this time and time with Jim. He can't win the big game. Granted, I think his rosters have never been that great to win the big game. I mean,
yeah,
you lose both of the Open Cups at home. You look really bad against Houston when you played the Open Cup there. Can't win playoff games. You lose to New England after you won the Supporter Shield. So I understand why people are frustrated with Jim Curtin. And if you are a Jim Curtin, naysayer and you don't think he's good enough as a coach, last night was just adding fuel to that fire because he may have been the worst player on the pitch last night and he didn't even play because of the decisions he made to the
full injury on the game.
Now, here's the thing. So we do, and I've been kind of going back and forth on this. There is a game, though, in a couple of days, and the Union are no longer in the playoff picture. They are now in the 9th spot, if I remember correctly, on the table. They have 32 points, and they are in 9th place. They are tied in points with Miami.
Oh, Christ.
Wait, you didn't notice that? You didn't realize that last night?
I didn't. I completely forgot that the games have been played. I've seen them playing. Yeah, shit.
So NYCFC has 35 points, and they're in 4th. So really, realistically speaking, you win a game, you're right back at the top of the table. So this is going to be 11 games going back and forth. So let's not get too carried away. But one of the positives last night is that this team did show a lot of heart.
Yeah,
they did play with some aggression, at least when they were in that formation, whether we liked it or not. They at least played tough. And they had chances where a keeper who wasn't Ochoa would have not have saved those chances. And maybe they would have scored 2 last night. So if you play the same way against MLS level talent, I think you win more often than not.
Yeah.
So this weekend at 4 p.m. on Sunday, they host Orlando City in Super Park. Orlando is currently in 3rd place. They have 38 points. So you're not going to leapfrog them by any stretch of the imagination, but you certainly close the gap between you and the 3rd place team. Nashville's at 41 points. So they're, a bit of a distance ahead of you, but still you close the gap between you and everybody else if you beat Orlando. What are you expecting on Sunday against them?
I mean, to be fair, Orlando, I'm looking at Orlando's last couple of games. They've shipped.
It's not pretty.
7 goals.
It ain't pretty. We said the same thing about Montreal.
Yeah, they've shipped 7 goals, so the Union probably aren't going to score. The Union won't score probably.
No,
but they've shipped 7 goals in the last 2 games. So yeah, the Union won't. It's unlikely the Union will actually find a way through. If that's the case, again, it just gets to a point now that teams doesn't also help that teams now know how the Union are going to set up. They know how the Union is set up. They know what they've got to do to sort of counteract the Union style of play. Get on top of them early, put balls in, test them and things like that, and it works. It works. It's worked. Well,
And just crowd the middle of the field because they're not going to try to beat you
yeah,
inside. They're going to just keep going to Mbaizo and Kai and Mbaizo and Kai and toss it. The problem with the way the Union attack is as great as a counterattack can be if it's done effectively, which we saw against DC United, etc. The previous DC United game, not the one they got embarrassed at, is that when done effectively, the counterattack is great. But the problem is that the crossing into the box is not necessarily a high percentage scoring chance because all the defender really has to do is at least get in the way of a leaping player, and it causes enough of an obstacle where it's not a definitive clear scoring chance as if you're inside the box front and center have a shot at goal.
yeah.
So all these teams have to do if they see this diamond is just crowd the middle and just play man on man, play Casper or whoever tough, and just jump higher than them, and you're basically going to be fine against Union.
Yeah, if teams play narrow, they pat them in midfield. They know that these wide players aren't going to take a risk and go wide and try and create something in wide positions. You've seen it. Bedoya doesn't offer anything in attack. Leon Flark doesn't offer anything in attack.
No.
You already know that essentially, being realistic, you're playing against 3 players or 2 players defensively because, except for the wide players, but you're playing against 2 or 3 players attacking players, which is usually the 2 strikers and the 10 or 2, whatever the hell they want to call it, 10s or whatever, 6 of 10s, 9s or whatever, 11s or whatever, people that play behind the strike with the Christmas tree formation. You only have to deal with 3 players.
Mm-hmm.
And then you only really start to commit men when they've been down in recent weeks. And obviously, going back to the league table point, I saw the Union in 9th, but I thought it was a form table.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was just a form table. Oh shit, form. Oh shit, and I thought, no, they can't be 9th. They were like in 5th place. They completely forgot that the entire league had played like 2 rounds of fixtures since the last league game. But yeah.
Yeah, they were off last weekend. They had 12 days off, which is everybody else, caught up. And the problem is Columbus is 30 points, and they're knocking on your door. And Atlanta, who do you play in 2 weeks, I believe, 2 matches rather, they're at 33 points. They're right ahead of you. I mean, you are now behind teams who have beaten you or have played you to a draw at least once this year. New England, Nashville, Orlando, NYCFC, DC, Montreal, Atlanta, Miami, Philly. You have lost to every single one of those teams except for Atlanta. That's not a good thing to be looking up to.
They need to be in with a shout where there's a final 3 games. In those final 3 games, they've got Toronto, Cincinnati, and then they've got to travel to NYCFC. If they're in the shout with the final 3 games, hopefully they can make it, but I think now, obviously it's frustrating, but now is about time the Union keep themselves in that pack, keep themselves in that distance, and hopefully, even if they get a result or point on Sunday, I'm really tired. It's been a long ass day, but if they get a point on Sunday, they can look at the next game more positively, a bit more. Do you know what I mean? They got a solid point, something they can build on when they play Columbus and then travel to Cincinnati.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, if they win on Sunday and the other games kind of fall your way, you could easily see yourself maybe in 7th place, which would be 35.7. If every team lost ahead of you, and you won the match, you'd have 35 points. You'd be in 4th place, tied for 4th with NYCFC. Realistically speaking, that's not going to happen, obviously. So you're looking at probably 7th place. So it's still a chance to go up and position yourself at least closer. And after NYC or Orlando, you play Atlanta like we already talked about, and then you have the Red Bulls in Harrison. Then you play Columbus again. Then you play Cincy, Montreal. I mean, these are winnable games.
Yeah.
You have Nashville at home, which is that'd be a pretty good match. You go to Toronto and then Cincinnati. You play Cincinnati twice. Both of those should be wins. So just cross your fingers here. And it's frustrating because right now you don't have a lot of hope for them
No,
at all, and that's a disappointing thing.
no, things need to change very quickly, otherwise things could get ugly.
Yep.
In terms of like the ending of the season and the good feel around the club, I think if the team ends up making the playoffs still and they come sixth, fifth, it's still a good feel. Oh, we got the playoffs, we got the Champions League. From the position that Union were in earlier in the year and had a very good start, it will be very it will leave a poor taste in many people's mouths that they weren't able to actually get into the postseason from the position that they were in, and they were in comfortably
So
as
let
well.
me ask you something. The season ends today. The Union make the playoffs, and they only win one round. Okay, they win one match. They lose the second match. Looking at the big picture, would that be a successful season for the Union, considering last year's accomplishment? Yes or no?
I think it'll be a decent year. I think
Okay.
you'd definitely take it, considering we've seen the form, we've seen the results that teams that have made the Champions League and gone to the semi-finals from the MLS have
Hasn't been
had in
great.
recent years.
Yeah.
Most of the teams have missed out on the playoffs.
Yep.
So yeah, if they make it in and they can get a good little run, if they win a game and they can maybe win a game or two and get close, you never know. But I mean, as long as they get in, I think it'll be a successful season because you've
I,
shown even when your back's against the wall and things aren't going as you planned, you can still get in and be part of that elite sort of team.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to disagree with you because I feel like people are going to disagree with you. I would agree from an objective standpoint. Yes, I think that's a successful season, considering how daunting the schedule is. Considering the new pieces you brought in X, Y, and Z. I feel like if you at least win one playoff game, you made it to the semifinals of the CONCACAF Champions League. That's a good year. Regroup, come back next year, and move on.
Yeah,
Most people would disagree with you, I think, because they wanted more after last season. They got a taste of the trophy and they want more. And I think most people will want to see 2 playoff wins at least, which is a pretty tall task considering how they're playing right now. But I think people want to see progression. They want to see steps forward, not steps backward. They
yeah.
don't want to see the Sixers losing the second round every single year. They want to see progression.
Oh, yeah,
And a lot,
I don't. Oh, yeah,
yeah,
I
and
don't know. I don't disagree with that. But I think again,
a
it's a
lot
lot
of
different. It's a lot different to the basketball schedule and
yes, yes,
baseball
of
schedule,
course.
where you're not going off and you're not playing different competitions. You're not having to travel to Costa Rica before your season's even started, having not had a proper preseason and playing games there,
And
and then obviously having to go to Mexico and things like that.
And one of the most unfortunate things too, which takes away from last year, is a lot of people don't, quote unquote, count last season. They say, "Oh, well, it was the COVID year, and they
Yeah,
played New England 7 times." So how can you really say that they won the Supporter Shield when you didn't have a normal season? And I kind of
yeah,
agree with that. In some ways, it is a little bit tainted, but at the same time, who cares? You played the schedule in front of you. You did well with the schedule in front of you, and you had a great season, and that shouldn't take away
yeah.
from you. But unfortunately, people, because they believe that, are not going to be satisfied with anything less
Oh no.
besides a two round advancement in the
And
playoffs.
that continues to link into Jim mentioning, um, expectations have changed. People have high expectations, which is again, you've just proved it. People want second round of the playoffs. People want to go and win all these games, even when you've just had a grueling CCL schedule. So I'm just trying to get my laptop charger here because
It's all
that's
right.
about to die. But yeah, like again, like they've had a stressful and strenuous season, and I agree things haven't been as great as we have as they should have been, as they could have been with the players you've got available and the squad depth you've got. Really, I mean, like this Union team could probably have been better if Jim and you're still seeing lot of tired legs, a lot of players that are tired and not playing to 110%. If Jim had used the squad rotation properly, which he hasn't done this season,
And
that's one thing I'd be
you talked
critical.
about this in particular early on. You said this early on. You said this
You need
team
to.
will be burnt out. You said that plenty of
And
times.
they've looked extremely burnt out this season. They're slowing down, they're tiring in games, they're perhaps not starting as quickly as they should do in games. And as I said, like we'll get to a point where it gets too much for these players, especially in a league where there is a lot of travelling. It's not like you just got to travel a few hundred, like 50 miles up the road. You're travelling properly, like hundreds of miles up the road. And do you know what I mean? They go 9 hour journeys to some games and things like that. It isn't team players are going to burn out, and it's not like And I think, pretty sure the Union have probably rotated the least out of any team in the MLS this season.
Yeah, we saw the stat. I think it was with Jacob and Elliott, the center back pairings who played the most in MLS out of any other center back pairing.
That hasn't changed.
No, and it hasn't changed. It's going to continue. The back four will play. Speaking of the back four, I would have liked to see Alvis Powell. Or I want to see Alvis Powell at some point. If they're going to change the formation up a little bit, put him in. I thought he played great defensively. But anyway, go ahead.
Put Powell at right back, and then if you clearly lack pace and a player that can be direct on the ball and, get wide across in the box, Bizo would be perfect as a right winger.
Yeah.
As a wide right player.
And if you have Powell behind him, it covers him defensively because at least you have someone stout back there. Powell is similar to Flock in the way that he's more defensive minded. He's not going to go out there and blow you away offensively. He's not going to score. No. He's much better out back, which is why I wanted Flock back at the 6 more instead of Martinez, because Flock offensively doesn't do anything for me.
No, yeah.
But I mean, we've kind of gone full circle here. Any final thoughts? Any predictions before we close the show? Because it's already hit an hour mark now.
I just want to quick have a look at how many games Ali Bedoya has played this season, because I know it's going to be ridiculous.
Every game but one.
So yeah, he's pretty much started every single game this year but one. And this man is 34 years old. Will be 35 next April.
He didn't play against Chicago, and he was off the bench against New England. So that was 2 matches.
Exactly. So I mean, he's literally playing week in and week out. The man. And that's half the reason why the Union at times are playing with 10 men.
Yeah,
playing a man down, and sometimes you're playing with 9 men because your 2 wide, your 2 aides are so isolated. They're literally on such non-factors in the game when you need to get on control of the ball. You need to attack because they don't have the confidence. They're not very good attacking players. And you need your 8s to be attacking players to get you up the field, to beat a few men, take a few risks, try and get the ball in the box. And they don't do it. And they lack so much they either lack confidence or they're so impotent in attack, they don't know what they're doing. Because Bedoya last night was just so baffling when he got the ball, and I keep alluding to it, when he had the ball in such a large amount of space, any natural footballer, any natural midfielder, or any midfielder or attacker takes that ball. Touchdown Washington. Takes that ball and they go, fuck it, I'm going to take that ball. I'm going to try and do my thing. I'm going to try and create something. Whereas Bedoya literally got the ball, and it's pretty much an indication of what the Union have done over the last few weeks. He quite literally got the ball, stopped. Bear in mind, you probably got Jabirko and Burke, who have one-on-ones in the box at this point, who could win their matchups. He literally stops the entire play, stands there, and then just slots it back to Bizo. At that point, the potential for a good attack is done. And nothing really comes of it. And then obviously Bizo put in the really good cross to Jaka Glasnes. The ball came straight out to him. He's whipped it straight in first time. Hasn't given Club America an opportunity to, reset themselves defensively. He's put it in. It's caused havoc, and Glasnes is in the back post unmarked.
Yep.
And that's just the lack of attacking intent and lack of attacking knowledge and bravery this team lacks, and it's so frustrating to see.
Well, Dave, I completely agree with you. I think you said it perfectly. If you can predict the score for this weekend, what are you saying for Orlando? My apologies. I left the Club America review up. We got so heated, I forgot to change the banner. Yeah, I think a hopeful win. I want to see a Union win, a 1-0 win against Orlando. That's what I want to see.
I'll take any win. I'll take a goal.
I'll take anything. Just give me a goal, please. For the love of God, just score a damn goal. I think it'll be a tie. Unfortunately, I think that's maybe a 1-1 draw. I would hope the best outcome would be a 2-0 win or a 1-0 win, but I just their form right now is not good enough offensively for me. But let's wrap it up. We'll do the what's it called? We'll do an advertisement real quick, and then we'll read our final sponsors. So give me 1 minute. Let me just set this video up, and then we'll come back our sponsors, and we'll close up the show.
Attention, listeners across the galaxy, all the way from Australia to Houston. Do we have a pube problem? If so, our friends at Manscaped have cleared you for takeoff with their 4th generation and brand new Lawnmower 4.0. Kick your pubes to the next planet with the Performance Package 4.0. The orbits in your pants will feel like you're in zero gravity when you use the best tools for the job from the leaders in male grooming. Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get your rocket ready for takeoff by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with the code AATBirds. Ready for an out-of-world experience, fellas? Look no further than the Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped that has just taken off in not only the USA, but Canada, the UK, across Europe, Australia, South Africa, and Singapore. Inside this package, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your whole solar system. First, scheduled for liftoff, new Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer. This spaceship is here to guide you on a journey to trim your body, balls, butt, and even Uranus. This 4th generation trimmer also features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multifunction on-off switch, can engage a travel lock, and is even waterproof. The Lawnmower 4.0 also has a 4000K LED spotlight you can turn on and off when needed for a more precise shave throughout your travels across the universe. The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker. It's like having a little astronaut to chop your worst weeds up top in your nose and ear. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and uses a 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual-blade system. This nose and ear hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology, which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate holes. Don't forget to use Crop Preserver ball deodorant and their Crop Reviver to help your little planets be on their A-game while feeling the sun's heat. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. Abort hairy balls and Buzz Lightyear that Woody with Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code AATBirds at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code AATBirds at manscaped.com. For a clean trinity and beyond, your Spaceballs will thank you.
And then obviously, leading on from the Manscaped advert there, if you are looking for the perfect gift for your man, we're not getting the we're not getting the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the Lawnmower 4.0. So 20% off.
Dave, also real quick, I want to shout out to
Hello. Sorry, yeah. What's going on?
Yep, a connection broke off. There you go. Yep, go. You're good to go.
So, you heard that right, the Lawnmower 4.0. So if you want to get 20% off and free shipping, use the code AATBirds at manscaped.com. So imagine surprising your man with a sleek, well-designed and optimized body hair trimmer that says your balls will thank you. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com using the code AATBirds. And obviously with OddsJam is the number one software platform for sportsbook bandits. Their software shows you how to make risk-free cash off FanDuel, DraftKings and other sportsbooks with the arbitrage calculators. Never lose again and sign up today at oddsjam.com. The next one is Statement Games. So you can go out and check out Statement Games for a fun new way to play fantasy sports and to try out different ways of entertainment. So you can win gift cards, prizes, and more. And it's free to sign up. Sign up today at statementgames.com. And then a popular website with the All About the Birds family is 99jerseys.com. You can get 20% off your next order by using discount code AATBirds20. So you can check out their wide selection of quality and kick-ass jerseys of all your favourite sports, movie characters, and throwback jerseys, some of your favourite stars. So again, order today at 99jerseys.com and save 20% off by using the code AATBirds. And then obviously just finally moving on, the All About the Birds / All Authentic Talk Sports shop. Get your across the pitch gear and all about the rest of your All About the Birds and All Authentic Talk Sports Network gear from all our shows. So obviously from across the pitch, to Chips and Dish, to Burning Bridges, and the Wednesday Report show and everything. And then obviously again, follow the All About the Birds social media. You can find us on Twitter if you're watching here live, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. So obviously make sure to follow, like, and subscribe on all our social media platforms for the latest and greatest content. And if you missed the show, you can catch up on our content on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. You can even rewatch it if you missed tonight later on Twitter, on Facebook. All you've got to do is quite literally just watch the video like you've done tonight if you're watching on either of those social media platforms. Subscribe to get notified of all the new content that we provide and leave us a review. Thank you everyone for watching this week, and we will hopefully see you guys next week. Hopefully with a more positive outlook, not just on the Union team, but Union football in general.
Yep. Dupe. Good talking to you guys.